electronic stuff, but welcome. Happy to have you here. So you tell me when, Craig, and I will call the meeting to order. Okay, so welcome. We begin our meetings. With a land acknowledgement, and it's a hybrid meeting. So there are some members of council on the screen, which I believe you can see over Greg's head. And Councillor Getty and Councillor Finson are here, as well as myself. So we acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks and the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasauksing, Magnetawan, Henville Inlet, Nipissing, and Dokis. As we are learning from our First Nation partners of the Wasauksing First Nation, I want to stress the importance of accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We will look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration and guidance and the living memory of our communities. We, like all peoples, must accept that we are the stewards of creation and that the land comes to us with a responsibility where no hierarchy exists. All life is sacred on earth, in the waters, and in the skies. We have much to learn about the stewardship of our planet to ensure that the decisions we make today will take into consideration the future of our children and that of our children's children. We begin our learning journey today. So I will call the meeting to order and ask for an approval of the agenda. Councillors, you received an addendum with correspondence for in addition to item 8E. So with that addendum, may I have approval of the agenda? All in favor? Thank you. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? I see none. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held on January 9th, 2023 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the special meeting of council held on January 12th, 2023 as circulated. And I remind you that was our training session with the Integrity Commissioner. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty?
I move that motion.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Consent application number B 2022-0034-C, which is a zoning bylaw amendment application for Varga. Consent application numbers B 2022-0035-H and B 2022-0036-H for Schwartz and Nullmeyer. Consent application number B 2022-0033-H and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0031-H for Fraser, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0030-F for Shipman, and zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0029 for Seguin Valley Golf Club. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that motion.
All in favor of going into the public meeting? Thank you. Council will now hold public meetings for proposed consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications. In accordance with the Planning Act, council will consider all matters placed before it prior to granting a consent or passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment and who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide your full name and address to the clerk. No one other than the prescribed persons may appeal an application on the provisions of the Planning Act. If they do not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin prior to the decision of council, then the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. The purpose of consent application number B 2022-0034-C for Varga is to separate a back lot from an existing waterfront lot, resulting in the creation of one new lot. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0032-C is to rezone the severed shoreline lot in order to implement the recommendations of the site evaluation report and rezone the proposed retained back lot to a rural zone. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website, and by regular mail on January 17th, 2023. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
A letter of support has been received from Darren O'Brien.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? If so, could you please come to the podium and identify yourself with your name and provide your address, and just push the little button on the microphone and then we'll be able to hear you. Thank you.
Hi, you can hear me okay?
Yep.
My name is Lynn Varga. So I am property owner along with my husband, Greg Varga. So we had requested to speak to our application today. Probably will take me 1 minute and I've written it out so that I don't deviate. Thank you to council members today for hearing our consent application. We also want to acknowledge the support of Seguin Township planners, especially Lauren Irvine, for talking and walking us through the process of our application. Greg and I purchased our beautiful 30-acre property 5 years ago, and we moved here full-time in 2019. Greg retired from full-time work to take on our home and property project, and I left my nursing position in Mississauga to accept a full-time position at the West Perry Sound Health Center. Greg immediately joined Seguin Township as a volunteer firefighter out of Christie Station. I have also recently joined Christie Station to support medical rescue efforts in our community. We have a beautiful waterfront lot on Isabella Lake. However, our current home is 200 meters away, making it less than ideal to fully enjoy the waterfront. We also cannot view the lake from our home. With this severance, we will be creating a 4-acre lot on which we will build a modest year-round home perfect for our retirement. Greg and I willingly proceeded with the environmental assessment and site evaluation on our property prior to making application to sever, as we want to ensure all of our actions are aligned to respect the natural environment. Another example of this is when we purchased our property in 2017, we had the sand pit remediated and the pit license canceled, and we were granted with the Ontario Forestry Stewardship Program assistance to plant 2,000 red pine trees throughout the pit. The remaining 26-acre backlot will have no waterfront access. So we have one waterfront lot. It will still be one waterfront lot. However, the large home, garage, and outbuilding with rural zoning will offer other enjoyment. We are invested in our community, both in Seguin Township and in the town of Perry Sound, and proceeding with these plans will enable us to build our future here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're all learning the technology a little bit. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one is registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation.
Does council have any questions for the Vargas? And unfortunately, Lauren is ill today, so she's not here, but her staff report is in our council package. Council, any questions? I see one from Councillor Bazinski.
Yes, thank you. I don't have any problem with the application. I just wondered if maybe our Director of Planning could talk to the applicants a bit about when they sever the property, if they have it in the same names, is it going to then merge again into one property?
That should not occur as long as the paperwork is registered appropriately. There's expression once a consent, always a consent. So there shouldn't be an inadvertent merger, but it's always recommended that proponents discuss with their lawyer at the land division stage that concern to avoid it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Oh.
Councillor Collins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Taylor, looking at page 24, there's two on the boundary in red. There's two boxes there. Is that the present house and barn, or what is that?
Yes, that's correct. That's the existing development on site.
That's the existing development. Okay. And they plan to build a cottage or whatever on the waterfront, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And the distance between those two, is it going to affect our 300-meter setback or no?
That wasn't
That's it.
The
That's in the official plan.
yeah, I believe it's outside of it, and it isn't entirely a worry and due to the fact that they're going from one waterfront lot to no additional waterfront lots being created. If it was new shorelands being created, that would be much more of a concern. But my understanding, it is beyond the 300 meters regardless.
Okay, setback enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my only question.
Thank you. So we move on. Thank you very much for coming. The purpose of consent application number B 2022-0035-H and B 2022-0036-H for Schwartz and Nullmeyer is to grant right-of-way access over subject lands at 122 Grays Road to benefit the lands at 124 Grays Road and 128 Grays Road. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property on January 17th, 2023, by regular mail and posting on the Township of Seguin's website on January 23rd, 2023. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
No correspondence has been received.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? No, I see no one. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
And does council have any questions on this right away? I see none, so we move on. The purpose of consent application number B 2022-0033-H for Fraser is to create one new rural residential lot on Macaulay Road. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0031-H for Fraser is to rezone the proposed severed lot from rural zone to a rural residential zone in order to comply with the minimum area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website and by regular mail on January 17th, 2023. Notice was therefore considered and provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to these applications?
No correspondence has been received.
And is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to these applications? Nobody. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
Does council have any questions? I see none, and we move on. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0030-F for Shipman is to rezone the lands from LSR zone to a shoreline residential holding zone to implement the recommendations of an environmental impact statement and permit access by a condominium driveway. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website and by regular mail on January 17th, 2023. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
And is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application? See none. Has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
John Jackson of John Jackson Planner, Inc., agent for the applicant, is registered to speak to this application and is present via Zoom.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, members of council. This is actually a condition of a consent that was heard by council a number of months ago. So it's simply a perfunctory exercise filling one of those conditions out. The staff report is straightforward in terms of its recommendation. So unless there's questions, I have no need to add to the agenda.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Jackson? No, I see none. So we move on.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0029-F for Seguin Valley Golf Club, Inc. is to rezone a portion of the subject lands from open space 2 exception 1 zone to the highway commercial zone to permit commercial land uses. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property, posting on the Township of Seguin's website and by regular mail on January 17th, 2023. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
Letter of concern was received from the Ministry of Transportation, Ontario.
And that's in your agenda package. Is there anyone present in person or in the council chambers who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to the application? I see nobody. Has anyone registered to speak to this application via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to this application.
And does council have any questions? I see Brady, our planner, ready to take questions if there are any. See none. So thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene to the regular meeting. Public meeting, have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that motion.
All in favor of closing the public meeting? Thank you. Okay, so there's 3 steps to it. Is that- Okay, so now we're going to conduct the business of the public meeting reading. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2022-0034-C for Vargad, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I so move.
and seconded by Counselor Fellner.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. There are three parts to this. So I have a motion that as per the authority granted under section 34 bracket 17 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, chapter P 13, as amended, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin has determined that the changes to proposed bylaw number 2023-014 for rezoning application number R 2022-0032-C for Varga, as indicated, does not require further public notice to be provided. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. And the third part, I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-014, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-040-007-03705, application number R 2022-0032-C for Varga, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. So you have all the approvals that you require to now move to the next step. It's a lengthy process and lots of reading. Okay, I have a motion here that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application numbers B 2022-0035-H and B 2022-0036-H for Schwartz and Nullmeyer, subject to the conditions set out in the decisions. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
Second that.
All in favor? Thank you. It's carried. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application number B 2022-0033-H for Fraser, subject to the conditions set out in the decision. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Move on to Shore Road allowances. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-016, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-030-002-04900, application number R 2022-0030-F for Shipman, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Let's just. Oh, we'll go back to. There's only one here. It's consent. Okay, do you want to speak directly to Taylor?
If you would, just make sure that it's supposed to be reasonable.
Taylor, could you come on for a minute?
Yep.
Should there have been a rezoning for Fraser as well as a consent application?
Brady is on the line. Schedule A appears to be the bylaw to be read for Fraser, where it's going to a rural residential zone. So it's Schedule A to DPS 2023-009.
Go ahead.
So if Brady is on the line, if you would ask her to print us off a hard copy of that bylaw, please. And if she could bring it up or ask Donna to bring it up.
Okay, can do.
Okay, so we'll go back to that when we get it. Okay. Okay, so we've done, we've done Shipman. Now we're on Shore Road allowances. Okay, so you'll make note of where we go back to. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2022-0014-F for Hollis on Otter Lake, bylaw number 2023-002, and Concession Road Allowance Application Number RAC 2021-0023-R for the Whitmock Foundation, bylaw number 2023-003. Have any written objections been received related to these applications?
No written objections have been received related to these applications.
Is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak to these applications? See nobody? Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
And I believe Taylor's going to speak to these because Lauren is absent today. I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-002, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original Shore Road Allowance application number RAS 2022-0014-F for Hollis is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, whoops. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-003, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original concession road allowance, application number RAC 2021-0023-R for Whitmock Foundation is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move your motion there.
and seconded by Councillor Finson?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. And there's a second part to this one. The motion that bylaw number 2023-004, being a bylaw to deem part lots 11 and 12 NS of Perry Sound Road and part of Queen Street on Plan 163 pursuant to Section 50(4) of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision. Property roll number 4903-020-001-05501, file number D 2021-0009-R for Whitmock Foundation is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. So we move into delegations. Okay, we have, because we're only meeting once a month, we do have a longer than normal agenda. And with it, 5 full delegations today. And I remind everybody that each delegation is limited to 10 minutes in front of council. And I would, because of our mixed in-person and online version, I'm going to ask everybody to hold their questions until the end of the delegates' presentation. And then we'll have an opportunity. So, okay, I see Savas. So Savas Veritas from Plan Muskoka, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Savas Veritas. I'm from Plan Muskoka. I'm here representing the applicants for the blasting exemption request, the Clarkson family, as their agent on this matter. Just to recap, I guess, where we were previous meeting when this was heard at the last council meeting to where we are today. At previous council meeting, we heard some concerns and some requests for additional information from some council members regarding this blasting exemption. I'm happy to say that the applicants pulled together the information that's being requested, which was some visual renderings of the proposed building and the proposed blasting area on the property. And those 3D renderings were provided to staff, which are located in your staff report, I believe. I'm happy to share my screen if any councilors want to see them as well. And also, there was a request for a drainage plan or some sort of stormwater management plan, which has also then being included in the Schedule B site plan that's being attached to the staff report to form part of the blasting exemption. Drainage details in the form of an infiltration trench and some proper construction mitigation measures and recommendations have been added to that plan as well. One of the matters that was raised that some council members were unsure of, and looking at the previous visuals that were provided, was whether or not the building was going to be sunken into the ground, I guess, further than the existing grades in the property. The visuals that were prepared by the designer clearly show to me, in my opinion, that the proposed building, the front of it, in terms of the shoreline side of it, is the floor elevation of the basement level is meant to match the existing grades in the property. Basically, the blasting area, which is primarily outside of 20 meters on this proposal, is a small area in front of that 20-meter mark, which represents the building envelope of the property, or sorry, of the building that's proposed. So we're really talking about a blasting solely for construction purposes in and around the foundation wall and basement level that's proposed for the building. Just to show the direction that the town had with their blasting bylaw, I just want to read a quick excerpt from the blasting bylaw itself. It does say that the primary intent of the bylaw is to protect and preserve the visual environment of the natural environment and the natural environment by prohibiting blasting away from cliffs. The blasting away of cliffs and areas of rock in shoreline areas and EP lands. I think I made it pretty clear last time. I just want to reiterate again that there's no proposal here to blast anywhere in front of the proposed building in terms of like altering the shoreline area between the building and the shoreline of the lake as well. Between the building and the shoreline of the lake, there's no alteration that's being proposed there. It's simply for construction purposes. And just to reiterate that point, the blasting bylaw actually goes on to say that this bylaw recognizes that in our topography, the blasting of rock is sometimes necessary for construction purposes. I think that it really depicts exactly what's being proposed here by this blasting exemption, blasting for construction purposes. There's no blasting outside of the building area that's being proposed that would artificially alter that shoreline area. So I think we've addressed the additional information that was requested of council at the previous meeting. I think the blasting exemption is appropriate. I've read the staff report in its entirety. We agree with the conditions that are being proposed, and we agree with the recommendation from staff to approve the blasting exemption, and we request that council consider this matter and approve this blasting exemption here today. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions for Mr. Savas? Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't find my little hand on this new program here. It'll come to me. Is the intent to vote on this exemption after this presentation, or when is that? When is that going to occur? I guess the question is to the clerk. I'm just a little uncertain.
Yes, we have a motion that was deferred at the
Right.
last meeting.
Okay,
So that motion stands now on the table for us to vote on.
okay, so I don't have, and thank you, Savas, very much for the additional information. It went a long way to clarifying. I think I would like to propose an amendment to the conditions. And amending condition 5 by adding one further condition, just to ensure that the grades as discussed are the grades that that are going to exist after the blasting occurs. I mean, I think we've had some problems in the past where
I'm going to stop you for a second, just because Craig, our wonderful clerk, has reminded me that before you can make an amendment, I need to read the actual motion that's
Okay.
deferred. So that's what I will do. So deferred as of January meeting. This is what was deferred, that as per the recommendation of staff report number DPS-PL-2023-002, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant an exemption for request number E01-2022-0005-H for Clarkson at 60 Tall Timbers Road, pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-104, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate blasting in the areas of the Township of Seguin, subject to the following conditions. And these were the conditions that were deferred last month. The proponent's blasting contractor name the Township of Seguin as the co-insured. Number 2, the proponent's blasting contractor conduct a pre-blast survey to ensure no off-site impacts. Number 3, that the blast rock not be stored on the property. Number 4, that no blasting occur until a building permit has been issued. And 5, a security of $5,000 is submitted to the Township of Seguin and will be returned once the lands are revegetated in accordance with Schedule B to the staff report number DPS-PL-2023-002. So Councillor Fellner, I understand you want to make an addition to this deferred motion.
That's correct.
Okay, can you tell us what that addition is?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we insert one more sub condition in number 5, simply stating that a survey confirms on site no blasting occurs below the elevation of 230 meters and within 10 meters of the shoreline, in brackets being the pre-existing bottom of the rock wall, as per Schedule B to this report, and the surveyor ensures that development strictly occurs in accordance with the submitted informations. And then the number 4 that was in the original, all eavesdrop and roof drainage are directed away from the lake. And then 6, again, it was, I believe in the original, that redevelopment comply with zoning bylaw 2006-125 without any requirement for additional variances or amendments. That would be my amendment.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, Kat Savas. Go ahead.
Through you, Madam. I just wanted to clarify then that condition, and maybe Taylor can, maybe this is a question for Taylor. I just want to confirm that that condition, what it's doing is restricting blasting within 10 meters of the water to a level for any level below 230 meters ASL. Is that correct, Taylor?
Yes, that's correct. This is to ensure that the rock knoll that you can see in the pictures is not blasted, because it is both within 10 meters of the shoreline and below that. I think it was 230 was the number that was just mentioned.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that we don't plan on blasting within 10 meters or even affecting that that rock outcropping, that rock knoll. So I think we're good with that.
Okay. Are there any other questions from council? Could I have a vote on the amendment to the motion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3. So that is carried. Now, I have to ask for your indulgence because I have to write this whole thing out before you can vote on it. So just bear with me for a moment. My apologies, but now I need to read you the entire amended motion. And pay attention, because you're allowed to ask questions afterwards, but I hope I only have to read it once. So I have a motion that as per the recommendation of staff report number DPS-PL 2023-002, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant an exemption for request number E01-2022-0005-H for Clarkson at 60 Tall Timbers Road pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-104, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate blasting in areas of the Township of Seguin, subject to the following conditions. Number one, the proponent's blasting contractor name the Township of Seguin as co-insured. Number two, the proponent's blasting contractor conduct a pre-blast survey to ensure no off-site impacts. Number three, that the blast rock not be stored on the property. Number four, no blasting occur until a building permit has been issued. And number five, blasting does not occur until a security deposit of $5,000 is submitted, which shall ensure, one, the lands are revegetated in accordance with Schedule B to this report. Number two, a construction mitigation plan is completed by a qualified professional, which ensures there is no sedimentation in the lake prior to any blasting or construction. I can't read my own writing. Or construction via site fencing or other means. And three, that a surveyor confirms on site that no blasting occurs below the 230 meters and within 10 meters of the shoreline, being the pre-existing bottom of the rock wall, as per Schedule B to this report. And the surveyor ensures that the development strictly occurs in accordance with the submitted information. And four, all eaves, trough, and roof drainage is directed away from the lake. Number six, that the redevelopment comply with zoning bylaw 2006-125 without any requirement for further additional variance or amendments. Are there any questions from council? All in favor of the amended bylaw? Thank you very much for your patience. What are we, February 6th, 2023. Thank you, Savas, for your patience.
Thank you.
And build a beautiful home. This one goes here. Okay. Oh, this goes back to. Okay, before we take the next delegation, we're going to go back to the Fraser right of way. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-015, rezoning application number R 2022-0031-H for Fraser is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner. Councillor Fellner, can you second that?
I'll second that, Sir Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. I will put this in, but it may not be in the right place. Okay. Okay, so we move on to our second delegate, who is Linda West from the Rotary Club of Parry Sound. And Linda, I do want to congratulate you on your recent award from Rotary International that I saw in the paper this weekend. Congratulations. It's
Thank
much
you.
deserved.
Yeah.
So you have 10 minutes to tell us about Rotary's business to date. You have the floor.
Well, thank you. And McDermott, Mayor Ann McDermott, and council and staff. I very much appreciate that. There should be a PowerPoint that's available to you. Have you got that up in front of you?
It's in our agenda package, isn't it? It's
Oh.
in our agenda package and starts on page 259 for anybody that wants to pull it up.
Excellent.
Or you can also share your screen. There are public in our audience right now. So if you could share your screen, they will be able to see it as well.
Okay, well, I'll just do that then. Share screen. Isn't this wonderful that we all actually know what we're talking about? Remember those early days?
Sometimes.
Those early days of the pandemic when we just didn't know. Play from start. Okay. Yeah, so the Rotary Club of Parry Sound has, of course, had a very busy year, and that we have responded to several issues, and when we try and respond, we've got some basic things that we try and follow and review at the board level and the club level before we do anything. And I think they're the things that everybody does. It's just good business planning and that. And what we basically have done is done almost everything that we did in the past. Plus, we did 3 district grants this year. And of course, you're aware of the Ukrainians that we're also supporting. So we did our normal things and then a little bit more. The 3-pitch is one of our major fundraisers, and it's a general fundraiser with a little bit of a twist because we generally take $20,000 off the top and give it directly to the hospital for cancer care. And that's what happened last year. And I believe that there's a fridge now, that a special fridge that allows for chemotherapy to be maintained so that people don't have to travel and that. And if you look at what we've been purchasing in the past, it's been very much focused on people being able to have their care here in Parry Sound. So that remains a focus of our 3-pitch for the next year. And we're just getting ready to launch it and that. But the Rotary's need for money has very much increased because our services have very much increased. So you're seeing us do a lot more things like bingo, which was very, very popular through the pandemic because it both raised us money and allowed people to stay at home and have some fun. But we do the Christmas hampers. You've seen a large amount of fundraising in and around the Ukrainians. We've also done some food support, and that's mostly now moved from being pandemic related, although occasionally it still is. There's still COVID out there, but it has swung now to senior citizens and otherwise disabled people. So when people can't get out and shop for themselves, we still shop once a week. And this week we look like we've got 9 or 10 families or people that we're shopping for. If anybody has questions, you're quite willing, you can interrupt me or keep them to
I think
the
we'll
end.
take the questions after your presentation, just because of the mix of people in person and some online, if you don't mind, Linda. So we'll let them have questions as you finish.
No problem. Very good. And that when we try and say what we do, I couldn't figure out a way of saying it all, because there's some things that are big projects like the groceries or the Ukrainians, but then there's lots of little projects that $1,000 or $2,000 goes out to, or we help somebody get their dentures or their walker or wheelchair. So there are really big projects, and there's projects that are very much smaller, but in the very needed by that individual. Our district grants this year have helped support the library, English as a second language, and also the drop. But we do a lot of work with closing the gap, and that's where you see a lot of the smaller funds go out, but they're mostly to help people pay for the co-payments that they can't manage themselves. And there's very, very few places to turn to if you are not able to do it on your own and need that kind of help. They really have shrunk over the last few years. So we've got 70, I think it's 72 Ukrainians in the area now that are living here, about 8 that we've helped in some way. For example, there was 3 women and 2 young children that were going to end up in a shelter while they wait for to be resettled in actually New York, because that's where their family was. And rather than having them do that, we supported them here in Parry Sound for about 5 weeks, and that. So some have been supported and they moved on, but the vast majority, the 72, are still here in the Parry Sound area. We find that the vast majority settle in a month and a half, where they really don't need a lot of financial support, although they need a lot of support learning our health system, our education system, our banking system, how to buy a car, how to get your driver's license. And we have regular meetings to support that. But financially, many of them are on their own after about a month and a half. There's been the exceptions. There's been some families that I'm not sure when they're going to be financially stable. It's there's a wide mix within them, but all of them get employment. The employers who have them are usually back emailing or phoning and asking for more Ukrainians, but we've had a dreadful time trying to find housing. There's lots of Ukrainians out there, and that, in fact, are being stranded in Toronto. So there's some really sad stories right now. The need has never been greater. The winter has worn in a very difficult way with them, but we just don't have housing. In fact, we've got lots of the people that we've got here got housing over the winter because people went south or otherwise, that we still need to find housing for, and that. So if you know of any housing, we've got people who now have cars that could actually move out of town into Seguin. I think you have 2 families physically living in Seguin as we speak. The other really major thing is just to make sure they're connected with all the programs. You can imagine that if you were in the war, and the war really didn't start last February. It really started for lots of them in 2014 when Crimea was invaded. So lives have been disrupted and lots of things have to be looked after, like dental care and vaccines, and children need to be supported while they catch back up in school and learn English. So a lot of our jobs have been to connect them. And one of our Rotarians actually learned how to speak Ukrainian. He's Ukrainian descent, but he learned it from basically scratch a little bit in his childhood. And that, so we've got about 3 really amazing Rotarians that have stepped up and been the heart and soul of the Ukrainian project, and lots of volunteers from across our area. So we thank the municipal staff. The municipal staff helped out an awful lot during the pandemic. And anytime we ask, the staffing helps out, but there's a lot of volunteers, a lot of people from Seguin area helping us. We could still use a few more Rotarians so Rotary does the heart and soul of the administration, and lots of volunteers. We are almost always overwhelmed with volunteers when we ask for them. They step forward. It's always amazing to see how many people will volunteer for us. And that maybe just back, I forgot to say with the Ukrainians, they are holding their very first, and this is their event at the Bobby Orr Community Center on March the 4th. And you can get tickets at rotaryperrysound.org. So rotaryperrysound.org keeps you up to date on our club, but also will give you the ability to go forward and help the Ukrainians. We are looking for people to join us. It's great fun. There's lots of personal growth. I have been amazed some of the time when sort of mid-career people join us and take on the Rotary education, because it really is middle and senior management folks that get the work done in Rotary and set up the basis for other people to volunteer and use their skills. So back to the 3-pitch. It's June 16th and 17th. 20,000, as I said, will go to local cancer care. And that it's always a fun event. The fish fry and the ball games and 2 or 3 bands that we have out the bar. And of course, the silent auction. It's all good fun. And I think I'm under my 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Linda. You are a busy group of people. Does council have any questions for Linda and Rotary? I do want to say thank you for everything you do for the community. It makes a difference to everybody who lives here. Are there any questions from council? Linda, can you unshare your screen so I can see the rest of my council?
Oh, sure. Stop share. There we go.
Any questions for Linda? No? Thank you very much. And please pass our thanks on to all of your members.
Yes, we are, just on one other note, saving money at this point for the pool and ready to help fundraise towards that big community event.
Well, we are counting on you. You know that, Linda. And Linda is also a member of our fundraising team for the pool. So it's an important project for the entire community. So thank you for your support for that.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Linda. And I call on Chris McDonald. Is he here? Do you turn her off? Or?
Yeah. How do you turn? Oh, there it is. There's the leave button.
It's an important. So thank you for that. It's me. Thank you very much, Linda. And I call on Chris McDonald. Is he here? Hi, Chris. The one quick question for you, make sure you turn off your live feed while you're speaking to us so we don't hear the echo. And I'd like to welcome you as the new executive director of the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to council. You have 10 minutes as a delegation for us, so please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor McDermott and I am Chris McDonald, the new executive director at the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce. I've spent most of my life working as a businessman and entrepreneur in the town of Parry Sound. Over the past 22 plus years, I've been able to build a strong relationship with local businesses, organizations, and individuals in the community. Having inside knowledge and understanding the struggles of small business in Parry Sound area, I feel this gives me a unique opportunity and perspective to help fellow businesses in my chamber role. Alongside my manager of membership services, Catherine LaPerriere, we have continued a successful rebuilding and rejuvenation process, which was severely impacted by the global pandemic the past 2.5 years. Our social media reach has exploded, and we are continuing to hear a lot of positive feedback from the community on our renewed visibility, advocacy, and performance. In addition, our monthly networking sessions have been sold out events with members and non-members actively taking part and enjoying these opportunities. As the Parry Sound area heads into its 125th year, I'm excited to announce our organization is growing steadily and adding new members on a regular basis. Our membership has grown by 25% over the last year and continues to show consistent growth even as we move into the slower seasons. By the support by municipalities as we work through financial challenges from years past. As we move into 2023, I am pleased to outline some of our strategic plans to continue to grow and build a stronger organizationship for our membership. With this plan, we feel we can put ourselves in a good position to remain relevant and strong resource for our new and existing businesses. So number 1, membership meetings. Reestablish monthly meetings of members as part of providing networking and professional development services. Business after hours, business over breakfast, and learn over lunch are all networking sessions that have been successful and well attended in the past, and we hope to bring these sessions back, guest speakers, and valuable information to those in attendance. Website update or develop a new website into a more user-friendly, dynamic experience. Allow our staff to be able to edit and maintain ourselves rather than relying on a third party. Build a more comprehensive calendar of events that includes member and non-member community events. Number 3, recognize and promote the achievements of our members. Shift focus of recognition awards to include milestones, new businesses open, moves, achievement, ownership changes, as well as sending out member certificates for new businesses and existing businesses. Number 4, onboarding package for our new board members. Create a thorough package outlining expectations and duties of our board of directors. This will help build a strong leadership committee and help them understand their roles when joining the board. When a board member is onboarded, prepare a presentation package that supplies but also distills key points of the bylaws and other relevant governance of the board. Number 5, a CSAT, customer satisfaction survey. Create and distribute a customer satisfaction survey to see what our membership wants and needs from our organization. Issue customer satisfaction survey with additional questions covering members' feedback on what is important to them. Open to public input as well. This will help provide valuable information on what is important to our members and what we could do better in the coming year. Prepare to set your 2023 budget. We ask that you consider a financial contribution of $4,940 to our nonprofit organization to help us continue to build a strong business community and strong leadership services for our members. You'll find our package, we have a funding formula sheet. It should also be noted that we currently have 25 chamber members from Seguin in our membership. This contribution, we feel, will help 23. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Chris. And as you probably know, we are addressing the budget requests later in this meeting. So we appreciate your request and it will be addressed. Does council have any questions for Chris? Craig? Gail? No? No. Thank you very much, Chris. And I wish you all a success in your new role. And you should feel free to call on Seguin whenever you need. The Chamber of Commerce is important to all of us.
I appreciate that very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. And okay, James Cox is here to present for the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaboration. Craig is switching so you can see James's presentation on the screen here, and I believe people at home can see it. Should be able.
It's the first time we've done this. not, it's in their packet.
Okay, and you want to push the microphone button there.
Okay, thank you so much. Right. Well, thank you, Your Worship, and members of council for the opportunity to speak to you today about some of the work that the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative has undertaken over the past few years of its operation and what we're planning on doing into the future. So to set the stage for some of my comments this afternoon, I
Oops, what happened?
no worries. To establish, before we get started, I'd like to spend a brief time talking about what actually economic development is, because it's a term that gets thrown around quite a bit, and it's a very broad field. And so economic development, broadly speaking, we take to be any action that we can undertake either at the municipal level or at the community level that enhances the community as a place to do business and work. So the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative itself is a unique organization. It is a voluntary collaboration between the 7 municipalities in West Parry Sound that have come together to improve economic development in our area. And I think it's worth noting that the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative is one of the few successful voluntary collaborative economic development organizations in the province. And there's comparatively few other examples where communities have identified the need to work together to build sort of the common good of the area through economic development. So I think it's a real achievement for the area that they've put this organization together. So our activities for the West Parry Sound Collaborative are supported by our member municipalities, by the 7 municipalities in West Parry Sound, but are also we've been generously supported by a community investment initiative in Northern Ontario grant from the federal government through FedNor. And our current term of funding through our FedNor agreement runs through until the end of this year. And that FedNor's continued support has been very valuable in allowing us to pursue economic development across West Parry Sound for the past 6 years since the collaborative was established. So broadly speaking, our efforts in economic development focus on 4 key areas. And I know some members of council will have heard me speak about these before, but I'd like to go over them again very briefly. We focus first on our first and foremost priority is business retention and expansion, working with existing businesses within the West Parry Sound area to ensure that they have the support that they need to stay and grow in our community. We also focus on development readiness, ensuring that our communities are well positioned to welcome new investment and new development when it comes to us and when there's an interest in it. We work on business and investment attraction, what I think is traditionally considered the core focus of economic development, bringing new business into our member communities. And we also focus on regional engagement, working with our member municipalities, working with organizations like the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce, whom we just heard from, working with the Community Business Development Corporation in Parry Sound, and all of the other groups that have a role in economic development for our area. So we've a lot of the challenges that are facing our communities in terms of economic development, things like the housing challenge, things like the labor shortage, some of the challenges that were addressed in the Rotary's presentation earlier. These are very big issues that are affecting not just West Parry Sound, but the province as a whole. And I think it's useful for us to look at the difference between addressing these levels at a systemic level and at a specific level. Addressing these large issues systematically requires a all of government and all of community approach, ranging from the provincial government throughout the down throughout the communities. What we focus on at the collaboratives level is working with specific businesses to address the specific challenges that they have that may be part of this larger trend, but have very specific impacts for their community, for their business operations as a whole. So this could be things like we work with businesses that are having difficulty finding workers to find ways to help them either recruit new workers, or more commonly and more frequently, finding ways to adapt their operations so that they can get by and continue to operate and thrive and grow even with the labor shortage that our area is facing. So our main focus of our activities for the past 2 years actually have been our business retention and expansion program. So this involves going out and meeting with our business community, usually in their place of business, talking with them, identifying trends, successes they've had, challenges that they've had, and any areas that they need support. So over the past 2 years, we've had the opportunity to do 200 business visits across all 7 of our member municipalities. And we've found a number of trends that are that have emerged across our area, and we're working on a sort of comprehensive BRNE report that's going to be coming out within the next few months that summarizes a few of these things. But as I noted in my comments already, things like finding ways to help our businesses adapt their operations in light of the current labor situation that we're in. That's one of the main trends that we've heard. We've also heard about the importance of ongoing engagement to help our business community take advantage of resources and grants and other opportunities that might be available to them that the average small business owner may not be aware of. We also have worked on the question of development readiness. So this is working directly with our municipal partners to help ensure that that our communities are ready to welcome investment when it comes. Certainly here in Seguin, there has been a tremendous amount of work done in partnership with the Municipal Airport Commission in terms of developing the business park out there and helping support the really great businesses and really exciting developments that have been taking place out at that facility. We, in terms of investment attraction, we our aim on this priority is we serve as a single point of contact for any new inquiries or any new businesses that are interested in coming to the West Parry Sound area. And when we have those leads, we'll work directly with them to try and land the investment. So this typically involves bringing, organizing a familiarization tour for the prospective investors, either virtually or in person, where we bring them to the area. We will show them around the area. We'll show them potential sites. We'll introduce them to municipal staff and municipal officials and any supports that they may need to get their business established here. And certainly one of our priorities going forward, we've had the opportunity over the past 2 years to do about 25 of these business visits, which have resulted in, I believe it's 8 businesses or investors looking or purchasing land in our area or opening a new business in the area. And one of our priorities going forward is to continue to work with these investors to ensure that they are supported once they've actually made the decision to land here, that they have ongoing engagement with their community. And finally, we work in the field of regional engagement. There are a number of organizations across West Parry Sound that have a role in economic development. Even today, we've heard from the Rotary Club, we've heard from the Chamber of Commerce. There are literally dozens of organizations that have some specific role in economic development and have some way in which they support the business community. And so our goal oftentimes is to help our business community navigate that network of supports, to figure out whom they need to connect with in order to address the challenge that they're having. So for 2023, we have a few key priorities. We're in the final year of our agreement with FedNor. So we're looking to conclude the main outstanding items that we have in that agreement. This involves namely a refresh of our marketing and investment attraction strategy that was originally developed in 2017 and is been largely completed and is due for a review. We're also looking to refresh our investment attraction materials and support that we've had across that we use in our activities. And finally, as I mentioned, we have concluded our business visitation program that's been running over the last 2 years. So we're going to be finalizing the results of that and then following up with those businesses and those investments that we've worked with for the past 2 years to help ensure that they have the ongoing support that they need. And that is the end of my prepared comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, James. Does council have any questions for James? There's a lot of work being done at the collaborative. And as James says, it is an interesting challenge to have 7 municipalities at one table trying to agree on one set of objectives, but it's working with James in the middle. Any questions? Nope. Thank you very much, James, for the presentation and the work you're doing. Seguin has benefited from some of your door knocking and hand holding with some new businesses here. So we're delighted to see that. We just need more houses. Thanks. Do we need to turn that mic off? Oh, did he? Okay. I see Janet. Are we going to see Stephanie too? Or are they on the same screen? Welcome, Janet. I'm just waiting to see Stephanie join us.
Okay.
There she is. So welcome. We have Stephanie Veranda, who's the Executive Director or the CEO of Seguin Public Libraries, and Janet Borneman, who's the Chair of the Library Board. So I'm
just waiting to see Stephanie.
Somebody's got a live feed going of us.
That's me, I think.
Can you turn that off?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Hold on. I have 2 computers going at the moment. There we go.
Okay, so I will turn it over to you. You combined have 10 minutes to speak.
Okay. All right. Want to go ahead, Janet?
Sure. One of the first tasks that the board took on 4 years ago was the development of a strategic plan. The board's been steadily working through the plan with at least 65% of the items completed or in progress. One specific area identified was staff retention. It's difficult with 4 branches and a limited staff budget to hire and retain good staff as employees move on to full-time positions as they become available. Most recently, a plan and policy was created for our reserves. The policy includes a minimum amount to be kept in reserves for emergency or unforeseen circumstances, as well as a policy for use of excess funds for planned capital projects.
Nope.
When it came to the wages part of our strategic plan, Stephanie researched staff wages for similar libraries and discovered we were well below average. She worked with Christine and Michelle to determine where various library staff fit into the township pay scale. All staff were evaluated and placed in the appropriate slot on the pay scale. Annual reviews have been implemented and appropriate COLA and pay grid advancement has taken place. The board performed a similar analysis of the CEO and placed her in the appropriate pay scale grid. We also implemented a type of benefit package for the CEO, again with input from Christine and Michelle, and perform an annual review with the CEO. It is hoped that having implemented more appropriate remuneration policies, we will be able to retain staff. We need to continue to improve staff wages by keeping our pay scale and wage increases in line with township policy.
All right, so over the last 4 years, we've made a lot of big upgrades with our technology in the library. The most recent one being the upgrade of our internet and Wi-Fi hardware at all of our branches. The upgrade expanded the range of our Wi-Fi, and also it allows us to access our Wi-Fi routers remotely. So if we get a call from one of our patrons saying that the Wi-Fi is out in Christie, I can address things immediately from my computer and not have to spend the time driving to the branch itself to restart everything. So it's making everything run a little bit quicker for us. Recently, we've also partnered with the township in order to improve the software for the library team, which has been a really key upgrade for us. The new Office or Microsoft 365 subscriptions mean that the township and the library staff are working with the same products, which is allowing us greater opportunities for collaboration between our two organizations to improve methods of outreach to the community for the library staff and generally making our lives a lot easier. The board recognizes that this line of our budget is a significant increase, but there's good reason for that. So previously, we did not require a consistent budget for maintaining software subscriptions, as our team was using a mixture of free software and services to maintain our daily operations. While these did work, having access to the right software is doing wonders for our organization, and we're really hoping to see it continue. E-resources. So in order to provide our patrons with access to ebooks and online databases, we do our purchasing through the Ontario Library Service, which allows small libraries like Seguin's to pool our funding together to get access to resources that would otherwise be beyond our reach. So our financial contribution to these resources is based on population being served. And as you're all probably aware, Seguin has been growing recently. So due to that population increase over the last couple of years, we have now entered into a different fee bracket when it comes to accessing the shared ebook collection. So in an attempt to minimize the increase that we're asking for, we completed a usage review of all of our current e-resources in 2022, and we've ended some of the subscriptions to the databases that were not being frequently used by our patrons. Instead, we have purchased access to an additional ebook collection in response to patron request. But unfortunately, this reevaluation was not quite enough to cover the increase in the fees for the initial ebook collection. So we've included a minimal additional cost to our 2023 draft budget. Jen?
In the past 4 years, the board and CEO have made positive movement through the strategic plan. Staff use COVID to their advantage to cull the inventory. New online and digital initiatives have been commenced and will continue to be developed. We are in the process of creating maker spaces in the libraries and developing programs for those spaces. We continue to develop programs for both children and adults and update our circulation materials to keep them relevant to the community. Working with and building relationships with Seguin staff over the last 4 years has been a positive experience, and we hope to see that relationship continue to grow. And finally, I encourage you to visit each of the branches to see the changes that have been made. And if you don't already have one, get a library card.
Thank you very much, both Stephanie and Janet. I've said many times that the library is the heart of the community, and under your leadership, it truly has been. I've never seen so many people at your tea parties as in the last couple of gatherings. So that means that your communication is working and people enjoy it. Councillor Fellner has a question for you.
Not a question, just a comment. I had the privilege of being appointed to the library board my last term of council, and I can attest to how hard they worked, the board and Stephanie and her staff through some pretty difficult times. Staff at one point during COVID was pretty much deserted us en masse. We had our challenges, but, I just wanted to, thank both these ladies for their contribution. I think the libraries are a much stronger place than they were when I first got involved with them. And I think there was a lot more to it than I ever thought there was. So again, many thanks. And I enjoyed my time with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fellner. Anything else? Thank you very much. And as you probably know, your budget request will be considered later in this meeting as we address the draft budget for 2023. So it has been received and we will be discussing it in the next part of the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation and your time today and for coming.
Thank you.
So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the February 6, 2023 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty to receive staff reports?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that.
All in favor of receiving the staff reports? Thank you. So the first one is a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the 2023 operating capital budgets in principle as per the recommendation of staff report TR 2023-003, copy attached as Schedule A to this resolution, and it can be found on page 294 of your agenda package. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that motion.
And I see Michelle online to take us through this. And after she's finished, you can ask questions. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. For the last 5 months, council and staff have been working through a number of the pieces of the budget. So the cost of living, the capital budget that you saw in January, the amendments to the fees and charges, the service level change requests. So this is the culmination of all that work. The important thing to note is that this is not the final budget. That will come in April or May, as soon as we're done with the year-end audit. This brings together all the decisions and allows staff to move forward with all of the projects that we have to finish. Some of the highlights, this is a 7.25% municipal tax rate increase. Blended with the school taxes, that makes it a 5.09% increase for our ratepayers. That's $26.21 per 100,000 of assessment for our ratepayers. Just for interest sake, I know I've given you this number before, but a 1% municipal tax rate increase amounts to about $133,000 in tax revenue. We are still awaiting levies from DSAB and the ambulance, and they are two of our most significant levies. So any change with those could change this budget. The community service level change request has not been included in this budget. That would have added another 0.5% increase in the tax rate. So it would have gone, the combined rate would have gone up to 5.45%. Of note, if we wanted to bring that blended rate with the school rate down to 5%, we would have to have a municipal rate increase of 7.12, which is about $17,000 in savings. But again, as I said, this is not the final budget, but this allows staff to go ahead and complete or start completing all the projects for 2023.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions? Councillor Bazinski.
Yes, just one question. Michelle, in your report, you mentioned that if we were to apply the surplus from this year to the budget and perhaps some other surpluses that we have in reserve, that it could help to lower the budget. I'm just wondering if we could discuss that possibility, because I know that depending on the ward you're in, there are people out there that increase is going to be very impactful on them.
Yes. So for example, we always carry forward $100,000 in surplus at the end of the year. Right now, I'm just finishing up the year-end surplus for 2022. It's looking to be between 115 and 130,000. If we carried that full amount forward, anything in excess of the 100 could be applied directly to the tax rate to bring the tax rate down.
And you were mentioning that there are other reserves that could be applied as well?
We do have some other reserves. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that we use reserves to bring the tax rate down all the time. We use them for specific things. So we do have a severe weather reserve. We do have a fireman's compensation reserve. So there are some reserves where we can draw some of that money down. They're not significant reserves. There's not a lot available there, but there is some available.
Would it be possible to look at the impact of, the 130,000 plus the reserves, and before we have to vote on it, maybe inform council as to what the difference would be?
Well, as it stands right now, I don't have the final number for the surplus because we aren't done the year end.
Understood.
And normally what I would do is once I've done the year end, I would bring that report back to council and ask for direction on where to apply the surplus. So that's something that will probably come in March, maybe April. And I would have a better number then as to what could be applied.
And I just like to remind you that what we're approving here, until all the final levies are in, we are approving a draft budget so that staff can begin their work on their strategic priorities. Without that approval today, staff can't do anything until we move forward. I also believe it's important, Michelle, to talk a little bit about the target for reserves at the end of, say, 5 years. There is a, what do I call it, a best practice or a guideline given to us by the municipal ministry of what the reserves should be in order to be in good financial health, I guess. And so it's important that we not play with too many of the reserves or we drop below what is mandated by the ministry.
That's correct. We do have a target of between 25 and 30% of operating expenditures for our reserves. And over the 5-year period, the reserves do bounce around because we have some years where we have large projects, other years where we don't have the large projects. It's important to note that in the 5-year plan right now, there is nothing with respect to the pool and wellness center. So that's something that we're also going to have to start addressing in the next 5 years, which could affect our reserves.
Councillor Getty has a question.
Michelle, the first one, in your report, you mentioned that the potential 130,000 reserve. When you talk, I interpreted that that whole 130,000 would be rolled over, or just what is in excess of the 100,000?
Right now, we have budgeted for 100 to be rolled over. So it's the excess that would affect the tax rate.
Got it. Okay. In regards to the other, personally, in regards to the other two that you mentioned, the fire and severe weather, I think it would be, I think it would be short-sighted to touch those myself, just with because they are correlated, and we are having more severe weather impact on services that we have to deal with. So that's my opinion on that. On the second page of the staff report, TR 2022-015, and they were for the two positions that were brought forward at the December meeting. I apologize because maybe it's just being new on council, but it says here that we approve those. I can say that I did not approve those. My understanding they were going to be brought back in this draft budget process. So I agree with Councillor Brzezinski, and I think everybody understands and is appreciative of the fact that what is really a 7.25% tax increase is substantial. And I applaud the efforts of staff to try to even keep it at that. The rate of inflation is higher than that, as well as, equipment malfunction dropped a $250,000 bill into this year's budget, as well as a trash compactor that had to be replaced, running at about $400,000. But I think, in fairness to our constituents, one of the things that came up in the December meeting in regards to the climate change position, whether it be an intern or a full-time position, myself and I believe some other councillors had asked, there was very little in the description of that. No meat, I think was the term that I used in regards to that position that was pitched by staff. And I have seen nothing since then, between then and now, to show any specifics of what that function would be. That 35,000 is tempting because there's a $50,000 grant this year. But the reality is we would be assuming that. I know it is a one-time deal, but the reality is in the current environment, that position is going to roll over and we're going to assume that as a full-time position next year. I can't support that position. And I would like to see whether I have to put a motion forward to have it removed from consideration. In regards to the full-time position, transferring the part-time position to a full-time position within the roads department, that's a potential $54,000 increase to the budget. I think that if the 30,000 that we anticipate in surplus was put towards that position, the increased cost to the municipality would be minimal. But the benefit to our ratepayers for the services that would be available and provided by having a full-time staff in that position would be a benefit. So I guess in a nutshell, I do not support in any form at this point the climate change intern position or a full-time position. I think it is something that we, as a municipality, want to look forward in the future. But I think that this year, I think it would be unfair of us to be taking on a position such as that. And I will support the position, the full-time position from the roads department, using the surplus money, the anticipated surplus money, whatever it is, to offset some of the funding increase, because neither one of those positions or the $35,000 in the septic rollover have been included in the budget process. So between the septic, between the surplus, we can provide better service to our taxpayers, really, and flatline that out. We still take a bad hit at 7.25, but I'm hoping that this is a one-year anomaly, understanding that we have $650,000 plus or minus in purchases that we did not have to anticipate making this year.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask our CAO to address some of those and perhaps Forrest as well.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. Yeah, I'll invite Forrest to join us and speak a little bit about the position itself. But I did want to just point out, and I think you got there, Councillor Getty, with respect to the $35,000 cost of the climate change intern being funded through the former septic reinspection program. So there is no new net money in this budget for that position. However, council can provide direction to reallocate that to the trails position. And maybe if it helps, I'll have Forrest just quickly jump in and share some thoughts on.
Sorry, if I can only make one comment, Jason, and that there is also no funding in for the $54,000 for the roads position that's included in here as well.
The trails position was referring to.
Yes, trails and roads and a full-time position. So I think that and as I think I've said, from a boots on the ground, I think that our residents and taxpayers will see a definite benefit in the services that they're provided. I think the other one we're taking on more debt or more costs that it's going to increase us from 7.25. Thank you.
Forrest, do you want to tell us a little bit about what the climate intern is to do? And I think it's important to address whether it does roll into a full-time year-round position. We are environment first is our guiding principle in everything we do. So over to you, Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Getty. You're right. It is money that we would be spending and investing in the climate and the environment, but it's also an investment in energy conservation, which could see some reductions in operating costs. But before I jump into that, the long and the short of it is the position would be looking to formalize the relationship Seguin has with the environment. As you all know, one of the first pillars, or the first pillar, is environment first. Seguin's done an awful lot throughout the years, and there's an awful lot more to do. So while I can appreciate that you've said you haven't seen anything else come forward, things have been occurring in the background, one of which is a formal job description has been started. It's being trimmed back to scope more for the intern type position. The intent is to start building that environment portfolio. As you may have read in the letter from Councillor Bazinski, who recently attended Roma, there is a lot coming down the pipe from both the federal, provincial governments, as well as some of the kind of the independent agencies therein. We're seeing trends towards conservation programs, not just being optional anymore. The expectation is that we are reducing our consumption, that we are reducing our emissions, and to a large extent, Seguin's already committed to these programs. Council has adopted the 5-year conservation and demand management plan, which lays out a path for reducing greenhouse gas emissions at the municipal level. Above and beyond that, Council also agreed to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partners for Climate Protection program, which is a 5-milestone framework intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There's a number of other initiatives contained within there, including some adaptation planning, because we are already seeing the effects of climate change on infrastructure. Now, where this position falls within there is beginning to formalize the role of Seguin within the environment. So Seguin's done an excellent job of talking the talk. And in fact, they've done a lot of walking the walk. But there is a whole lot more to be done. As Councillor Bazinski noted in his report, Ontario is working and moving towards decarbonization, and the expectations of municipalities to be prepared for decarbonization, they are there. And in the next couple weeks, Seguin will receive a draft corporate climate action plan that will be run through staff, but there are a significant number of actions that are being recommended that were workshopped through staff within the entire West Prairie Sound area. And quite a number of councillors were involved in the workshopping. So these investments will continue to be significant. There is a tremendous number of projects being recommended, and it doesn't mean that everything's done at once. Now, to remind council, the FCM's PCP program is a 10-year project. The expectation is not that you get it done immediately. The expectation is that you get the planning in place, and then you begin to action these plans. Now, again, these aren't all energy specific. These aren't all emissions specific. Many of these items are specific or also include things like adaptation planning. How do we prepare for flooding or fire and the like? So I hope that answered the question. I'm happy to add more or answer any additional questions, but there are a lot of higher level things occurring that we as a municipality need to be prepared for, decarbonization being a large driver of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Forrest, and I understand it is an important position, but I'm not sure at this time at a 7.25% tax increase with a non-specific job description that we as councillors can responsibly approve it when it's just being drawn up. And I don't, I can't support it. I think as a council, we recognize the efforts and the work that is being done by staff. A substantial cost of living allowance was brought forward to council. There was no bickering. We didn't look to split it. We didn't look to cut it back. We acknowledged the work that's being done by staff. But I think that to take on more human resource costs when we're asking people for a 7.25% tax increase is personally irresponsible to me.
Thank you. I do want to point out that our ratepayers will see, under the current recommendation you have before you today, a 5.1% tax increase when it's blended. That is the tax increase that we are recommending today. The other thing I do want to point out is that this council does not see job descriptions. The only job description we will ever see belongs to the Chief Administrative Officer, and he is responsible for the other position descriptions. That's not a role that this council can take on. So I'm going to ask you, Jason, to continue with.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to close out the questions from Councillor Getty, with respect to this position and whether it rolls into an automatic full-time job into the future, that is subject to council direction in future years and subject to a further service level change proposal. What we're proposing today is an internship on a one-year basis. We can, if council wishes, every year we can consider that an ongoing internship, or when the time is right, if perhaps the climate, no pun intended, sorry, calms, the financial climate calms a little bit, we could, at that point in time, consider a full-time position, but that is subject to council direction in future years. This is for a 12-month period of time where we would use the septic reinspection funds with the grant funding to fully fund this position for 1 year.
Thank you. Councillor Collins, you're next. Oh, yeah, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm a little off the subject matter right now. That I'm looking at the, this is for Michelle. Michelle, page 307, and it's the social services levies, DSAB. You've got is at 1.62217, 1,622,178 for the budget for 2023. It is the largest levy that our township pays out. The 22 budget was at 1,544,932, and that was a difference of 77,246. What percentage is that? Is that a 1% or 2% increase? I didn't
That's
work out the percentage.
That's 5%.
Oh, that's a 5% increase. So then, okay, because we have the budget meeting this week with DSAB. So that's what you've implemented is a 5% increase for 2023. Is that correct?
That's what we have
like,
in this draft budget, yes.
Yeah, so Gail and I got to keep it at the same levy it was last year, right, Gail? Anyways, underneath that, I see Belvedere Heights. Was that just a clerical error, or because we're not paying no levy taxes to Belvedere anymore, are we? I thought that was.
Mm-hmm. We're
We are?
still obligated to pay Belvedere, yes.
We still own it.
Oh, okay. I thought.
It's come down significantly, but the municipalities still own Belvedere.
Yeah, because last year it came down to $250,000, right?
That's correct. We received a refund of reserves of 250,000 that is now sitting in a separate reserve for Belvedere.
Okay, so will that refund come back again this year, or we don't know that?
No, that was a one-time refund of reserves.
That's a one-time. So we're sitting on that capital right now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Michelle.
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you,
So
Councillor.
just-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say, just as we were sitting here and you were talking about the DSAB levy, the ambulance levy just came in, like as we were sitting here. And I have it in there at 1.202 million. It just came in at 1.219 million. So
2.19.
So
So-
it's up 17,000 from this budget. So that's what I mean when I say we don't have the final numbers yet to actually do a full final budget. So
And what was the increase on that from 22 to 23? The
Well,
one
that-
you have 5 again?
what I had in this draft budget was 3.5%, but it's
Okay.
now up even more than that. So
That was for the ambulance.
that's correct.
Yeah. And 5 for DSAP.
Yes.
All right. That's good to know. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. That's all I have to say at this time.
Councillor Fellner, you're next.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Question for Michelle. The money that you're proposing to shift from the septic inspection program to fund this interim or Seguin's portion of this interim position, is that the total amount that's sitting in the budget for septic?
Yes.
So we were budgeting 35,000 a year per septic reinspection. Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And if in fact we decided that we would like to see the Parks and Rec position made full-time, the impact of that you felt was going to be about a 0.5 percentage point?
That's correct. It's $64,000 would be the incremental cost
Okay.
of moving that position to a full-time one, which is about a 0.5 percentage point.
Okay, okay. So it's currently part-time now, is that correct? So
It's seasonal. Yes.
it's just seasonal, so there's so out of 12 months, you work 6 or the individual works 6 in the winter or whatever at the rink. Okay. Have you any other, since you know this sheet better than anyone, have you got, if the desire was to make that a full-time position, I quite frankly would like to see it be a full-time position. And I think the more boots on the ground positions that we can figure out how to fund, we should be doing it, because I think, all the departments, I think, have some challenges in that aspect. What kind of creative ways have you envisioned any? Have you got anything that?
One of the things that we could do is, instead of implementing that, starting in April, is that we implement that starting in September, October, so that it would roll into next year's budget, that additional money.
Right, so we still wouldn't have anybody on for the summer though.
Not for this year,
Yeah,
but for next year. And that pulls part of it forward into this year, and it puts the other part of it into next year. It's a way of splitting it between the fiscal years.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski, you have already spoken on this topic, so Ken Adams takes priority over this for you and Councillor Collins, who are repeating yourselves with your little hands. So Councillor Adams.
No, I just want to agree with Terry Feldner in the community service position. It's been a challenge for quite a while now. trying to control the trails and everything else. So I honestly think this position should be going through. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adams. Councillor Bazinski, do you have something different than what you spoke on before?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
So I guess this is maybe for our CAO to consider. You know, there are a few nickel and dimes we can probably make out of the budget to drop it by a very small fraction of a percentage. Are there any capital projects planned that could be deferred till next year, which would have a significantly more impact on the budget? And you know what, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'd like you to consider it for a future meeting.
Go ahead, Jason. I think it's really important that the way we put the budget together is piece by piece. And the capital budget was approved. That's one of the building blocks Michelle put into it. Similarly, the service level requests, and they've creatively funded one of them with funding it by the septic inspection. That's new news from when we approved the service level. So it's unfair to staff to give them the building blocks and then take the building blocks away, it just repeats their work. But Jason, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I had a good hard look at this capital budget, and I'll remind council that what some of the projects that you see in there, specifically around things like waste management strategies, roads needs studies, are going to actually put, in my professional opinion, put greater stress in future years on our capital budget. And so any deferrals that we do today, we're just deferring future road program, future waste management implementation strategies. We're actually going to be putting further stress on the capital budget in future years. To be frank, we're behind the 8 ball in many cases already. There's a number of specific pieces of equipment, as an example, in this budget that are currently not roadworthy, and so they're parked. To defer them means a reduction in level of service to the community. And I don't know that any member of council or any member of the public is interested in a reduction in level of service at this point in time. So my preliminary comments, and I'm happy to go back and take another deep dive into the budget with the team here, but we are already somewhat behind the 8 ball with respect to our capital planning and our capital budgets, and with a more robust capital infrastructure plan coming down the pipe in 2023. I would caution against deferring too many projects into the future.
Okay, that's fair. I wanted to get that response from you to see if there were any options. What about things like the strategic plan, which was only done about, what was it, 5 years ago or so? Could that not be deferred for another year or two?
From my point of view, no, we did it at the beginning of our my first term of council, and we made a commitment that it would be redone by every council. And we have mostly completed the ideas on the strategic plan. We need to plot out now where we're going for not only the next 4 years, but the next 10, maybe even 20 years. And that, I believe, is our obligation to our ratepayers, to have a vision for where we're headed. I don't see any other hands up. Oh, Councillor Collins, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I did, but Jason answered some particular questions that I had, especially when he mentioned the waste management area, where I could see significant increases in 2023 that they went over budget in 5 different areas: 124%, 111%, 218%, 109%. Especially just out of question, just for a question, one question: the Foley transfer station, why did that increase so much? 218%. That's a significant increase. Is it because of the transfer of garbage from the Foley transfer station to our landfill site? Or what would you, could
So
somebody just
I'm going to try
comment?
to, I will try, Councillor Collins. I don't have access to any of my records where I am, but that's also only on a $4,200 budget.
Yes. No, I see
So,
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it 218% is a big percentage, but again, it's only on a $4,200 budget. And I do believe that it was some maintenance that had to be done on some of our bins.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
But
All
there's
right.
Tom. Yes.
I know you're
Direct-
very.
Director McLeod, do you want to say what you spent in Foley Transfer Station?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Yeah, Michelle had nailed it on the head. It's a minimal budget over the previous years, shoestring budget. There's some significant upgrades to most of our transfer sites that are needed. It's been a lot of neglect for many, many years, and we have to get these trans stores and our bins in a good shape and keep them in good shape for years to come. And I hope to, fortunately, it's going to cost some money to keep it going. But on the other side of the coin is we do have the waste management strategy RFP, which closes on Friday. So it's something that will obviously be a big part of looking forward to how we're going to handle everything moving forward in a responsible manner.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you. I just like to summarize a little bit. I know everybody is nervous about tax increases, but we as a council agreed to a cost of living of 5% to retain staff. And I believe staff have done an incredible job at keeping the tax rate to, our 5.09. If we add back in the public works position, which is to continue with our master trail strategy and deliver on many of our promises that we made, that tax increase would go to 5.45% over last year. Based on my conversation with several other mayors, I believe that will be the lowest tax increase of any municipality in West Parry Sound this year. City of Toronto, I believe, is coming in at 8.6. If we, as a council, believe in the building blocks we approve, starting with the 5% cost of living, adding 0.5% to deliver better services, both in the environment to get ready and the trail strategy, I personally would support that. And I believe our ratepayers deserve to see improved and continual services. So Councillor Finson is next.
I just wanted to ask, would that still be 5.4 or 5.5 if you added the library and the Chamber of Commerce that were asked for this evening?
Michelle, you can address that, but I believe they're in there already.
They are.
Yeah, I believe all of the requests, Rotary, everything are in there, and you're going to see the next agenda item is some of the more discretionary donations that you see. That we'll address that separately. Yeah, but those ones are kind of ongoing, and we do every year, and they're in there. Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, and all I wanted to say is I have some knowledge about municipalities in Simcoe County, and a lot of them are coming in lower than us. And I'm not saying that we have to, use whatever as a guide. If we ultimately make the choice to keep that increase for this year, then we'll have to live with it. It's just, I know that Seguin is kind of a strange beast, because you go from the Muskoka Lakes to some of the rural areas in the northern part of the township, and the difference in the standard of living and whatever. I know a lot of the people that I talked with, any increase is tough to bear, and so we have to try and balance it. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you. I just caution you not to compare our tax rates to any two-tier municipalities, because the municipality may come in lower, but the district comes in completely differently. So it's a different way of calculating taxes when you get into a two-tier municipality, which is much of Simcoe Muskoka. And so we need to be cautious what apples to apples. So you have a motion on the table. Can I make an amendment? So I would like to propose an amendment to the motion that's on the table right now, that the Public Works Trails position be added back in to the overall budget. So that's
into the roads, right? Is that
Yeah.
into the roads department?
Yeah,
that's.
it's
I'm just
community
gonna correct you.
services,
It's
really.
Community services, yes.
But it's a person that works already in the winter. It's turning them into the summer.
Like a snowplow driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I moved it. Do I have a
I'll second
seconder?
it. No, second
Okay.
it.
Counselor Finson, because you, okay, so you're doing this because I can't do it?
Well, no.
All in favor of adding back in the community services half-year position? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's an amendment to add, what do I call it? Community services position? Community. You guys are making me work today.
Operator.
Community services, service level. Moved. AM, seconded.
Geez, we're not even.
Benson. Okay, so I will read the whole thing. We have a motion on the table that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the 2023 operating and capital budgets in principle as per the recommendation of staff report number TR 2023-003, copy attached as Schedule A to this resolution, and that the community services service level change proposal be added back into this. It's moved by, the original was moved by Ted Collins, seconded by Gail Finson. The amendments moved by myself and seconded by Gail Finson. All in favor, and this will take us to a draft budget, although we know we've got some levies coming in, of about 5.45% taxes increase versus 2022.
Apologize, this is a learning question. We've put in the community services position. If we vote on this document as a whole, are we also then voting on the climate change, or is that going to be a second amendment?
No, it's already in the staff recommendation. So we're taking the staff recommendation, which includes the climate change or the climate person, and we're adding that community services half year.
And again, this is a learning process for me, Jason, I apologize. If I don't agree, I agree with the budget, the capital, the cost of living, the position. I do not agree with the adding on the climate change position. So I don't want to not vote in favor of the budget, but how do I express in my vote not approving that portion of it, Craig.
At this point, if you vote in favor of the motion, what do you favor of that? I'll watch Michelle jump in, but
And I'll look to the clerk to clarify for me here, but Councillor Getty, if you are in favor of the budget with the exception of that one piece, you could potentially table a motion to remove that piece. And I'll look to the clerk to provide direction on that.
Sorry, I'll turn my mic on this time. Yeah. The resolution as it is on the table, if you vote in favor of that, it includes that. What the CAO just spoke about is you could move an amendment to remove that.
Then I think I would like to move an amendment to remove that position, the climate position, because I don't want to scuttle the budget as a whole.
Okay, so you need a seconder to remove the climate position. Councillor Getty has asked that an amendment to the staff recommendation remove the climate position, I guess is what it's called. Is there a seconder for that?
There's something wrong with your,
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't,
There we go.
I was
There
on
we go.
mute. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry. My little buttons, sorry. So, Councillor Getty has made an amendment to what's on to staff recommendation, which is on the table, which is to remove the climate change position from the staff recommendation. But I understand that would still leave in the community services. In order to proceed, we need a seconder for Councillor Getty's amendment. Will anybody second? Councillor Bazinski, you have your hand up. Is that a question?
Yeah, yes, it's a question. If we approve in principle, we still have an opportunity at the end when we vote on the final budget to make an amendment. Do we not?
It's pretty tricky because staff will start their work tomorrow. If we approve the pieces of it that we approve, they will start buying those things and hiring those people. So it's kind of hard to go back in, say, April or May and say we changed our minds if there's a person's career. Go ahead.
Right, but we've already talked about the fact that for the full-time position, we're looking at doing that at the end of the summer. So that wouldn't really be affected. And I guess in terms of the climate change, people will have to develop develop a sheet of responsibilities and so on. So
It's been done.
job description.
The suggestion from Michelle about deferring the public or the community services position, that is not in the recommendation. It was Michelle throwing something out that could have been considered, but that isn't really on the table yet. But I'll ask the CAO to talk about what we can go back on later.
Thank you, Worship and members of council. By approving in principle, and Michelle can correct me anywhere along this journey here, but by approving in principle, what you're approving is the municipal tax levy. What we can control. What we can't control is the levies that come from other agencies, such as DSAB or the ambulance, which I hear the numbers are coming in. So when we start to look at the blended rate, what's proposed right now is calculated to be approximately 5.45%, subject to the external levies influencing that number. But by approving the positions that are recommended, the capital projects that are recommended, you are nailing down what we control.
Your mic's not on again.
Oh, I goofed again. Sorry, there's too many buttons. Councillor Fellner, you have your hand up. So
Yes, I do. Mayor, question for Michelle, I guess is the best one to answer this question. So For the interim position, I just want to understand one thing, that if we take the 35,000 from the septic, along with a grant that we've already been given or we qualify for, that will completely fund a 50,000, that would completely fund that position for 1 calendar year. Is that correct?
What we
Or
will
only-
apply for, if council approves us going forward with the intern, we would start an application tomorrow
Mhm.
for the intern.
Right.
And the way that the program runs generally, yes, if we get that grant, the 35,000 that's currently in there would fund that position completely
If we
for
get
1 year, for 1 year,
if we get the grant.
if we get the grant.
So if we don't get the grant,
That's highly unlikely. Most of these internship positions are
Okay.
generally approved.
so basically by now the interim funding is from the province, is it?
It's usually through NOHFC. Yes, that's their
Yeah,
internship
so then they're
program we
basically,
used.
they're basically saying, we've got these new programs, you're gonna need different
Yeah.
people to deal with it, and we're prepared to kick it off by giving us some money for the first year. Is that sort of
That's
in a
correct.
nutshell what
Mhm.
this is? But the reality of it is, so when do you anticipate you'll bring your budget back for the final approval?
I would expect probably at the beginning of May, because the audit is planned for March. So
We're at the beginning of February now. The likelihood that we're going to get people in place in that position before the final budget comes in is pretty unlikely. I mean, I'm just looking for myself, and this is not directed at you, Michelle, by any means. It's just that I'm having a little trouble with this position, although I recognize the need for it because things are changing, and we have a significant amount of ratepayers that things like ice cap and energy conservation is very important to them, and they want to see the township being progressive on it. I'm just not 100% sure that taking it out entirely is the right approach. I mean, if it's completely paid for without any increase whatsoever by utilizing the septic funds for this year only, then I think, myself personally, I think we should do it.
Okay,
And-
I'm going to ask the CAO to weigh in, and then the clerk has advised me that we aren't supposed to be talking about this because we don't have a motion on the table yet because we don't have a seconder. So a few minutes to Jason.
Now I'm not sure I should speak after the advice of the clerk, but I'll make it brief. To your point, Councillor Fellner, this with the funds that are available in the current budget, with the grant funding that we are seeking, this is a fully funded internship with no net impact on the tax levy, no net increase to the tax levy. And the beauty of all of that is if it doesn't work, if we don't get the benefit, we don't do it again in future years, no negative impact.
Thank you. So we still have a motion on the table from Councillor Getty to remove the climate position. Is there a seconder for that? I see none. So unfortunately for you, we go forward with the motion I read, which is the original staff recommendation plus the addition of the community service level change proposal in the draft budget. All in favor of that? So everybody but Buzinski. Okay, so it is carried. Thank you. And Michelle, thank you. And actually all of staff. With a 5% cost of living, you guys have worked magic. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I rarely like to interrupt the middle of a council meeting, but it is no small feat putting together a budget for council and for the community, and it is a significant amount of work. And I want to just take a second and acknowledge and thank everyone on the team that put countless hours into building this and ensuring that we brought forward the most responsible budget we could in some very, very challenging times. So thanks to staff and thank you, council, for your patience and your questioning. I thought it was very productive and good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not done with budget. As you can see, item 8B. 8B is the donations list. And just to give you a little bit of background, the organizations that are listed here tend to come to us year after year. And they often ask for more than we can give them. But currently, council has a policy that the most we give to any given organization is $3,000, just so we can spread it out. So with that, you have a staff recommendation on page 318 of your agenda package, and I will read the motion, and then we will I have to actually fill in the amount for each of the organizations, and whether we accept the staff recommendation on 318 or not is the real key. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the following 2023 donations. So I need to fill these in before it becomes a motion. No?
It's what Kelsey's going to discuss before the actual finished motion is there.
Okay, so you have the recommendation on, I need a mover and a seconder?
Move it.
Don't put anything on there until Kelsey discusses.
Oh, okay, so we're going to discuss what's on 318 of your agenda package. I guess, are there any, you see the requests? You see what we gave them in 2022. The only one that is brand new is the Muskoka Watershed Council because they've never come to us before. If there's any discussion on the recommended amounts, now is the time to bring it up. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Staff does look in to see if there is still like a sore rope skipping team, right? Because these are automatic donations. They do look in to see if they're if there's still the 295 McPherson cadets and so on. All these organizations, are they still?
Yes. So all of those organizations that are on page 318, they all submitted applications.
Oh, okay.
In accordance with the policy, they all submitted applications with all of the applicable information.
That's all I need to know, Michelle. Thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So Michelle, I'm not sure who to ask this question, but the Sunday night hockey, that's the program that runs at the rink on Sunday nights for the kids. Is that?
That's correct.
We get every year, and they wanted a bit more money this year, but we can't give it to them. Well, we're giving them more than we gave them last year, right? We gave them 2,500. They asked for 34. We're going to give them 3 because we can't give them any more than that, right?
That's correct. 3 is our maximum.
Okay, thank you.
Now, for people that don't know, the Sunday night hockey is pretty exciting. My husband and I go sometimes and tie skates up. They provide skates, helmets, equipment for free for any size of skater.
Yeah.
And if you want something to do on Sunday night, there's one heck of a lot of skates to tie up.
A lot of kids.
A lot of kids, every shape and size and every level of skating, but they don't have their own equipment and they get to keep the equipment for the whole season.
Yep.
Another grandson event.
Yep.
Well, the individual that started it basically went around to cottagers and said, let me see what's in your garage and I'll take everything that's lying there that's hockey equipment. That's how it started.
Yeah. It's a great program.
Are there any other comments on the recommended amounts? Counselor Collins, you still have your hand up. No, okay. Okay, so with your agreement, I'm gonna write them in. Perry Sound EMS Drive, $1,000. Rosso Horticultural Society, 3,000. Safe Quiet Lakes, 2,000. McPherson Cadets, 1,000. Artelina Chamber Music, they asked for 5, we're giving them 3. Rotary 3 pitch that you heard from Linda today, 1,750. SOAR rope skipping, 2,500. Muskoka Watershed Council, 1,000. And Sunday night hockey, 3,000. So I have a motion on the table that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the following 2023 donations as outlined on page 318 and copied here. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so approve.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. She's gone.
That was a long one.
She's in a different time zone. New Zealand. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-124, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-008-02000, application number R 2022-0007-H for Kunst, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Getty
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
And I believe what we have here is a staff recommendation to defer.
Right, yep.
So, and I believe some new information has come forward from the agent and discussions with Councillor Getty.
So I believe John Jackson
Is there?
Amy Robinson, Ed Taylor are here for this.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, do you want to address this? The staff recommendation currently is a deferral.
Yes, I do understand that. And I think that we have actually been around the block on the issues, and they're kind of popping up a second time. And rather than sort of extend council's need to deal with this, it probably would be best. Now, I think that Taylor is bringing the file back into the office from the outside consultants, that between Taylor, myself, and Mr. Kuntz, we can sort it out for council in the very near future, so we all get it right.
Okay, that's great. So I just write deferral on here, right? And then we take a vote.
We need a motion.
A motion to defer.
Someone's going to make that motion.
Can you make a motion to defer? Do we need a date or just deferral?
Second, we defer it to the March meeting so we can deal with it.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that deferral?
I'll second it.
Okay. We'll take Gail. Deferral to March. I think it's 6th.
Then you vote on the deferral.
So we're voting on the deferral as requested by Mr. Jackson.
Thank
All in
you.
favor? Okay, thank you. So that's deferred to the March meeting. The next meeting. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, so we need to appoint a council member to the library board. Do you want to do it? Counselor Getty's interested. Is anybody else want to do it? Okay. So I have a motion. Well, hang on, Counselor Getty. I think you'll find it an interesting committee. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby appoint the following member of council to the Township of Seguin Public Library Board. Counselor Getty. And could I have a motion from Counselor Collins?
I'll approve that motion.
And seconded by Counselor Finson.
I second that motion.
All in favor. Counselor Getty has another job. Great.
Busy.
And now we're dealing with the Recreation and Culture Committee, which you'll recall is township wide now. And so we can appoint a member or members of council to the Recreation and Culture Center. Are there any people that would like to sit on this new committee? Counselor Finson and Counselor Adams. Oh, and Counselor Fellner. Can we have all three of them?
That's totally up to council. There are no terms of reference for this yet. So
Okay, so Counselor Vincent. Yeah, that's probably Vincent, Adams, and Fellner. And I think it's appropriate that you all represent different wards here too, because it will be an interesting juggle across the whole township. So I have a motion.
You might as well put me on there too, Mayor, if you don't mind.
No, because then council would be
Is that
a
too many?
majority.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, there's 4. Forget it.
We'll always consult with you
Thank
to
you.
make sure that Orville is not forgotten.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby appoint the following members of council to the Township of Seguin. Oops, they spelled Seguin wrong. And Recreation and Culture Committee, Counselor Finson, Adams, and Fellner. Could I have a motion from Counselor Adams?
I so move.
And seconded by Counselor Bazinski.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And now we have the newly formed Business Association Committee. Are there any counselors that would like to sit on that? I would like to put my name forward on that one, but I'm happy to have anybody else that wants to be there. Okay.
Is that 9? What topic is that? What number?
We're on 9A.
9A. And Business Association Committee. Yeah, that was the one that, yeah, I'd go on that.
Okay, so it'll be
Yep.
you and I.
Oh, great.
There you go.
It's
And
just the two
the
of us?
first order of business is terms of reference. We don't have any yet.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby appoint, I spelled Seguin wrong again, the following members of council to the Township of Seguin Business Association Committee, Councillor Collins and Mayor McDermott. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you. Just a question, will one staff person go on each of these committees to help us call the first meeting?
There will be staff as resource at all those meetings.
Okay, perfect. So, because we need to have somebody help.
Say how many staff?
Somebody, okay, to help us call the first meeting at least, okay. Hang on, 372.
Business Association, yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving to 9B, the acting mayor schedule. I have a motion on the table that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve and adopt the appointment of acting mayor in the absence of the mayor for the Corporation of the Township of Seguin as per schedule of acting mayor attached to Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Adams.
I'll second it.
And I'm assuming everybody looked at this when Craig circulated it last week and you're comfortable with it. In many cases, you don't get called on. But as you recall, when we had our first meeting, I said, I'd like each one of you to sit in the chair seat at least once a year. So given the acting mayor schedule, Gail will be in the chair at the March meeting. It doesn't mean I won't be there, but she'll be acting as chair.
Well, I should know what I'm doing by then.
All in favor of the schedule? Thank you. I have a motion on the table that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the statement of the treasurer for 2022, remuneration of elected members attached to Schedule A to this resolution, and the remuneration of appointed members attached as Schedule B to this resolution. Could I have a motion by Councillor Bazinski?
I so move.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? It's factual.
This is from 222?
Yep.
Yeah, well,
All in favor? Thank you. This is to appoint a council member if they wish to attend to the 2023 Canada Rural and Remote Broadband Community Conference being held May 8th to 10th at Canadore College in North Bay, with reimbursement of expenses. I've attended 2 of these. They're fascinating. I'm pretty sure Forrest will be going as a staff person. So if you want to attend, they are interesting networking in the broadband world. Chris?
When is it?
We're in Parry Sound for FONUM, which is the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities. Oh, is it? Huh, that's not so smart. Yeah. I think the most important person is Forrest. Yeah, so just don't move it. Thank you for bringing it up. I didn't even look. Okay. I have a bylaw. I have a motion that bylaw 2023-017, being a bylaw to appoint inspectors for the purpose of enforcing the prescribed maintenance standards contained in Ontario Regulation 517/06 under the Residential Tenancy Act 2006, SO 2006, C17, Rory Payton and Shiloh Adamson, and to repeal bylaw number 2018-070 is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I hope everybody's seen their fancy new cars. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2023-018, being a bylaw to appoint an area municipal weed inspector for the corporation of the Township of Seguin, Debbie Allen, and to repeal bylaw number 2011-23 is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Adams
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Bazinski?
I second that.
All in favor? If any of you have seen Debbie when she's on weed patrol, she looks like she's from Star Wars. Okay.
Long as
we
she's
go-
not high.
We go to council reports. You see Councillor Getty's Roma conference report, and I understand most of us have received one from Mario Bazinski. But let's go to council reports now, starting with Ward 1. Ken?
Cool. On January 12th, we all had a meeting of council, and I enjoyed the presentations given by the department heads and how they all appreciate the work done by their staff and how the different departments are working together. It was also good to hear from the township Commissioner Susan Craig. On January the 24th, I attended the 125th AGM meeting for the Chamber of Commerce at the new Best Western Plus. Jamie McGarvey swore in 2 new directors by Zoom. The meeting was well attended. Also on January 24th, I had Nadine Hammond. She gave me a tour of the museum. And I really appreciate Nadine taking the time away from her schedule to give me the tour. January the 26th, I attended the Zoom orientation meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. The orientation was for new representatives and new members. January 26th, I attended by Zoom a meeting with the West Prairie Sound Museum. I had some calls about snow removal around the Rankin Lake area. And with the great staff, I think we got it resolved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bazinski?
Thank you. I attended the special training session with the Integrity Commissioner, and I was at the Roma conference, and just a quick summary of it. It was a very popular conference. About 1,500 people were there in the flesh. And there were wide-ranging topics. As you know, this is a conference where we get to see the provincial politicians. So the premier was there and told us how everything is rosy in the province. And also that one interesting piece of news was that they anticipate in the next 10 years that there'll be an increase of 3 million people in Ontario, which is significant because that has implications for housing, energy, and all sorts of different social things. There were 2 presentations in the plenary sessions with respect to Indigenous issues. And one was a fellow who I guess is well known in certain venues. He's in the media, but he was talking about the Truth and Reconciliation and how we're nowhere near there yet. And the one I found was really more apropos of Seguin was with respect to one of the First Nations partnering with a municipality, similar to what Seguin has initiated, but they've moved a bit further than we have. I went through what I would call the energy stream, and that was very near and dear to my heart, considering my professional background. What I found was that there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The government is intending on decarbonizing the province in the future, and there will be significant investments in the electric infrastructure, including the transmission grid, new generation, energy storage, and the like. And some of the areas that I thought had direct applicability to Seguin, since we're doing a new roof on the arena, is that we could look into the possibility of putting solar panels on the on the roof, because it'll be reconstructed and can be reconstructed strongly enough to support them. I think it's important because the cost of energy is going to go significantly up, and any way that we can help to buffer those costs in the future will help keep our tax rates lower. The Enbridge was there as well, and they talked about their efforts at decarbonization, but it certainly was clear to me from the sessions I was in that electricity is going to be the way of the future, and it will be, whether it's liked or not, it will be imposed upon us. So probably best to get with the program and look at all of the opportunities that we have. In Seguin, there's already an energy storage facility down by the Parry Sound Transformer Station. I know I talked with a number of different developers who they have all sorts of innovative ways of upfronting the costs of the hardware and infrastructure, and Township gets a bit of a payback. But anyway, I've put a lot of that in my report. So that's generally what I did at the conference. It was well worthwhile, and I think that we should really consider that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. January 12th, the same training that with council, with the Integrity Commissioner. On January 16th, I attended the Humphrey Fire Hall, and Enbridge Gas was there for a $5,000 donation of training material for our firefighters. It's a great package and a great partnership with Enbridge Gas, both hard copy and online training material for our people moving into as they move forward in their training. On January 17th, I had a sit down with Jason in regards to the possibility of the youth summit. It was a great conversation in regards to the new strategic plan that we're going to be doing and working forward, not only in regards to engaging youth, but engaging seniors in part of the strategic plan. So I'm excited with that. I thank you, Jason, for taking the time to sit down in regards to that. On January 19th, I attended the CPAC meeting up at the OPP in Parry Sound. We had a slight cost increase, just under 3% for our billing from the OPP in 2022 compared to 2021. It's minimal. The reality is that the OPP were not self-initiating much contact during 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic. So a 3% increase is reasonable. I've had some discussion with Jason and with staff in regards to putting a hyperlink on our Seguin website for online reporting with the OPP. There's no cost to us, and in fact, it's a possibility for cost reduction for billing. People are able to just report online for minor crimes and insurance purposes, as opposed to the OPP having to attend and us having to be billed for it. And we also had some discussions with staff there in regards to a bill back. One of the major increases that we did have over 2022 was in regards to false alarm calls. And the OPP have agreed to look into jurisdictions. They don't have a program for bill back in Parry Sound, but they believe that they do have them in adjacent jurisdictions. And it may be that if we can look at a bill back program for false alarms, then if they take care of it, then we can just bill back from them or reduce our costs. And if not, then we'll look at it further with staff in regards to our own bill back policy in regards to false alarms. Sunday, the 22nd to the 24th of January, I was at the Roma conference. They attended a number of presentations that are in the report. What did come out of the trade show was spoke to a company called Logix ITS, who manufacture and provide solar powered photo radar and traffic signs. And they have been put in touch with Craig. Craig is working with them, and we anticipate them making a presentation to council on the 4th of April. And starting on January 27th, there was a number of emails going back and forth, both myself and to Jason in regards to the snowmobile trail dropping onto Little Whitefish Lake. Between the two of us, Jason dealt with the Snowmobile Association, and I was able to deal with Taylor Docks. Between the two groups, the Snowmobile Association did a great job of marking the entrance onto Little Whitefish. And Taylor Docks was extremely amenable to coming up and put on a number more of lights and signs to ensure that anybody that's not familiar with that trail we would be able to keep them off. So they did, both of those organizations did a great job. And Jason, thank you very much for your help with that. And that's it.
Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I've had a very quiet month. I have a pool and wellness center meeting scheduled for this week. I had no meetings in January since the previous council meeting. I was unable to attend the training meeting. So the one thing of note was I believe the new bridge on the Rose Point Trail was open this month. And hats off to everyone, particularly Tom, for quarterbacking this thing, and just unbelievable, really, in the timeline. So that's great news. And as of I think the weekend that the trails were open, finally there was enough snow, and I know they're working hard to turn all the trails into winter use, and most of them are groomed up. So as they say, happy trails. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that finally, all the appointments to the executive for the District of Perry Sound Municipal Association have been put into place, all the different wards, the 6 wards. So we now have an executive, and we're going to be having our first meeting this month. It's either going to be on the 14th or the 17th, and it'll be a Zoom meeting. It won't be in person as yet. So I'm sure after that meeting, there'll be we'll be discussing to have a conference either on the east or the west side of the District of Perry Sound. And on Thursday this week, there's a DSAB meeting, and it's budget time. We'll be, Gail and I will be attending that meeting, and hopefully they keep their levy at 2022 levels. So there you go. That's it for now. And of course, there's been a lot of telephone calls and emails whenever the snow flies. So
thank you.
Thank you.
We've all got them. Roads are getting awful narrow.
Yeah.
Councillor Vinson.
I had some quite a few emails, but I visited a property in Foley. Somebody invited me to visit the property that they were having some trouble with. I went out and had a look and had a nice discussion with the owners, Sharon and Terry, and I reported to Taylor, and Taylor is looking after everything as he always does. On January the 11th, I had a meeting with Belvedere Heights, and I had one on the January the 23rd as well. And now I'm on the governance committee and the finance committee and the regular committee. Anyway, I'm just so excited. It's a really exciting board to be on, and I just get too excited, I guess. Anyway, I'm on those, and I have meetings coming up. January the 12th was the orientation, which was amazing, fabulous. I really enjoyed every minute of it. I really enjoyed the integrity commissioner, and it was nice to see the staff. It was just nice to hear them, nice to see how wonderful things are going for them. So I was really happy about that meeting. It was a nice one. February the 2nd, I went to the chamber lunch at the log cabin. It was very nice. It was nice. By the time I was done, I think I knew everybody in the room. I got there early, apparently. And I've been invited to the Jolly Roger. The owner invited me to lunch and for a tour. So I'm going to do that. He was lovely, just a really lovely, lovely person. And he wants to do something for youth in Seguin. So it was it was really exciting. I ended up sitting with him. And February the 3rd, I attended the library coffee get together for the ladies at the library in Rosso. It was fabulous. It was really nice, except it turned into let's ask Gail a lot of questions about things Gail can't answer. Anyway, someone said, oh, this sounded like a council meeting. I said, but I'm the only council member here. Anyway, so I think next week when I go, it will be better. We hope. They won't have so many questions for me. And there was 9 ladies there, which was pretty good because it was a snowy day and it was cold. So that ended up going well. And of course, I have a meeting on Thursday. I have a couple of meetings. I think, anyway, one of those days I had 2 or 3 meetings, but anyway, it was a good month, pretty busy, but very good. Anyway, thank you. That's all.
Good. I don't have too many things to report. January 10th was an airport commission. Then on January 11th, Taylor and Jason coordinated an official plan steering committee update meeting. It wasn't particularly well attended, but they gave them an update on where we stand. We are no longer working with Skelton Brimwell, and the official plan, the next step is with staff, and then it'll come back to the community and the council for comments, but it's not ready yet. January 22nd, I attended via Zoom the World Hope Forum, which I had never heard of before, but the Wave Fiber Mail from the airport was invited to, it's a worldwide forum. There were 7,000 people on the Zoom call. It was, you couldn't see them all, but she put Seguin on the map. The other presenters were the founder of Fogo Island in Newfoundland, on Fogo Island. There were some presenters from organic growing in Australia. There were people from Japan, and Wave spoke for about 40 minutes about what going back to nature and natural fibers do. And she provided a video tour of her facility in Seguin. So, and the paper did pick it up afterwards. 3 years ago, there was no Wave Fiber Mill. And now she's got world recognition. It's pretty impressive. The 23rd, I made it for part of the Belvedere update at Townships, but I had a flat tire on the way, so I was late. The 30th, the fundraising team for the pool has had another meeting. We're waiting for the replies to the RFP for the professional fundraiser, but you're going to start to see community events and community donations. You can buy your t-shirts now at White Squall. There's a limited selection of sizes right now, but there are more coming. The big request was for toddler sizes. I don't know how many of us as counselors need toddler sizes, but anyways, they're selling like hotcakes. February 2nd, I had the privilege of attending the blanket ceremony at the Stocky Center. It was organized primarily by the Georgian Bay Biosphere, but the trainers were from Wisconsin. I really don't know where the original invite list came from, but it was a real privilege to be there. And if you ever get an invitation to attend a blanket ceremony, I suggest you do it. It's a very emotional ceremony. Took about 2.5 hours. And it was really something about the history of First Nations in Canada and North America. On the 3rd, which was last Friday, the Economic Development Collaborative, which you heard James speak about, met. Once again, I was elected chair of the thing, and Dale was elected co-chair. He nominated me, so I nominated him, and nobody else wants to step forward. However, out of that comes a real need to define a proper longer-term vision. We can't just be doing 2 and 3 year what's economic development for the next 2 years. So the board authorized a facilitator or some kind of a budget to get the right people in the room to talk about a vision for economic growth and economic development in the West Parry Sound area. They need to do that before they start recruiting money or people. Where are they going? What are they doing? And then this morning we had a meeting with Terra Woods Campground and the FedNor funding people to review what needs to happen to bring that campground into compliance. And hopefully they will be able to collect some of their grant funding from FedNor. You will recall in the summer, there was quite a bit of communication about a potential water park, which probably won't happen because it's governed by Transport Canada. And it was a lesson for everybody. Talk to the township before you make your plans and find out what you can do. So that's my report, but I do want to compliment everybody who worked on the Seguin Trail Bridge. It's amazing. It looks fantastic. It was done in 8 weeks, on budget, on time, by a group of people who really, really cared to get it done. It was unbelievable. In September, we found out it was impassable and scary, and it's fixed with a brand new bridge. Jason, you have a report.
Thank you, Worship, members of council. I'm going to try something a little different today. While council members report on the last month, I'm going to try to do a little bit of a look ahead for council and for the community, because we have a number of big events coming down the pipe that I think everybody should be aware of. In particular, perhaps one of our most iconic events being the Sled Dog Mail Run is coming up on February 25th. It is the full event, breakfast, pancake breakfast, breakfast in Humphrey, lunch in Rosso. We're very excited to have that event back in its full swing. And we're also looking forward to our MPP attending and participating in the events. Tons of interest throughout the community. The schools, as we've done, I guess, in the past, Humphrey has had the Sledvelope donations made. This year, we're also welcoming Wasauksking schools coming with their Sledvelopes. So quite an expanded program. One of the most interesting components of this event this year is this is starting to reach pretty far. We have a filmmaker who's coming from France to actually film the event and do a documentary around this particular event. So we're very excited for that. Also, just a few things to keep your eyes on. March break programming back at the Humphrey Community Center for 2023. Details will be coming up very, very soon via our website and social media platforms. For those of you that have signed up for our winter our newsletters, the winter newsletter is coming out before the end of the month. So keep your eyes open for that as well. And also something that I know we're excited about is the What Goes Where app for waste and recycling. That's expected to launch in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And again, just keep a close eye on our website and social media platforms for further information as all these programs and apps and exciting things kick off. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda for the February 6, 2023 meeting of council. Could I have a motion by Councillor Getty?
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner. I woke him up.
I wasn't asleep. I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
All in favor? Thank
Aye.
you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 5:40 PM. In order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and some labor relations and employee negotiations related to human resources. Could I have a motion by Councillor Collins?
I so move your motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? I just want to ask, as Craig does this, does anybody want to take a brief break
Yes.
before we
Yes.
go? So I have almost 5:45.
5:42.
Let's be back here by 10 to 6.
Okay,
Sounds good.
7 minutes. Ooh.
From the river.